My name is Hayden de Groot, descendant of the de Groot family of Holland, and I am a modern-day settler in Treaty 4 territory. I recognize my privileged access to the glorious lands of Treaty 4 territory, including the ancestral home of the Nakota, the Dakota, the Lakota, Cree, Saulteaux, and Ojibwe peoples, as well as the homeland of the Métis peoples. I recognize that there have been several mistakes made by the settlers, including some of my ancestors, that came into this territory, including residential schools and forcing First Nations peoples to forfeit their traditional culture, traditional languages, and their traditional lands. I acknowledge these mistakes so that they shall never be forgotten and to ensure that these actions shall never be repeated ever again in the future. My treaty story begins in 17th century Holland, when my ancestors set sail from Amsterdam on one of the first voyages made by Dutch sailors in 1624. My ancestors arrived weeks later in present-day New York State and settled in what is now New York City. As time went on, my family migrated across the United States, following hundreds of pioneers across land at the time only occupied by Native Americans. The descendants of those pioneers eventually made their way up to Saskatchewan in what is now Treaty 2 and Treaty 4 territories. My family then settled further into Treaty 1 territory in what is now Manitoba. As they settled into the territories, my family and other families created settlements that are now considered the cities of Regina and Winnipeg. As well, my family settled further into their territories and cooperated and worked alongside the First Nations people of the area, honoring the treaties that had been recently signed. I understand the sacredness of these treaties by the fact that, in the minds of the First Nations peoples that signed them, treaties cannot be modified, cannot be changed, and are never terminated. They last forever. So therefore, they are as sacred as the Bible. This connects to my story by my ancestors remaining honorable and never directly mistreating any ancestors or indigenous peoples in the Treaty 4 territories. Today, I am proudly continuing this tradition by always keeping the treaties in mind and respecting the perspectives of every First Nation in Treaty 4 territory. In every class that I teach in my grades in the future, I look forward to acknowledging Treaty 4 territory, the cultures and traditions that are incorporated with Treaty 4 territory, and also making sure that the students that I teach will always know what happened in the past so they never continue it in the future. My classes shall always honor First Nations people by including First Nations culture and traditions in the curriculum and always making sure that my family's traditions become a mandatory, honored way of respecting these people and the First Nations cultures that we have so totally and terribly wiped out because of the treaties and the misuse of those treaties. My name is Hayden de Groot, a descendant of the de Groot family of Holland, and as a modern-day settler in Treaty 4 territory, I feel privileged and honored that I get to continue on the traditions of all of the treaties and all of the people involved in them.